Hello, my name's Chris Amaro, and I'm the club leader at Southeast High School with Woodcraft Rangers, and I cover drumline and percussion. Today I'm going to be going over the importance of warming up and stretching. Now today you're going to need the usual, just a pair of drumsticks, practice pad. If you don't have these, again just use any tabletop surface that's flat. Use your hands if you don't have sticks, or just have some pencils ready to go. Same idea. And ideally you should have a metronome. It doesn't have to be as fancy as this, it could just be an app on the phone. So now let's go over the importance of why it's important to warm up and to stretch. So picture this. Let's say athletes, for example. Let's have a sprinter as our primary example. So if you're going to run, say, the 100-meter, so normally before a sprinter would get ready to go up to the starting point and then just do the sprint, the important thing that they do right before is they'll stretch up their legs, maybe do a couple movement of the body just to loosen up, and overall just make sure their body's prepared and ready to go. It's much the same for music, and especially for a muscle involved activity as drumming, because you're using so many different muscles, and since you're always working them in different ways, it's important to make sure that they're nice and loose, they're not too tight, and also that you kind of ease into what you're doing, so this way when you're actually getting into the meat of potatoes of what you want to do or what you plan to do, you'll be ready to go and not have to be like, oh, I'm stretching or I'm still figuring it out. So that's the importance of why we should warm up, why we stretch. It's to give us a better chance to play what we want to do with better accuracy, precision, and overall mental preparedness. So as I mentioned, stretches. They're important, and I'll go over some important ones that are pretty easy to do and you can do at home. These mostly pertain to the arms. So the first one is, you're going to get your right hand out, put your fingers together, and then with your other hand, also make sure your arm is nice and stretched out. I'll actually do it this way. So with your other hand, you're going to pull your arm back, or I should say your fingers rather. And when you're doing the stretch, you should feel a stretch right at the bottom of your forearm. So that's an important stretch to have, and you should feel it going. All right, and then you do the same thing with your other hand. Put it out, grab the top, and then pull back. If this is your first time doing it, it is going to feel pretty tender at first, but as you do these more often, it'll be much easier. You just give it a good stretch, shake it out a little bit, and then the next set is bring out your right arm again. I'll do it again from the side so you can see. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the fingers down now. And now the palm should sort of be facing towards me. And you should feel the stretch right on the top of your forearms. And if you start to lose the grip, just readjust. It should be right on top. Right here is where you should be feeling it. All right, same thing on the other side. Do that stretch. And make sure you're grabbing on the fingers too. I have my pinky also involved in the grab, so I'm feeling that stretch too on that side of the hand. All right, then shake it out. And then here's another one. This isn't a two-parter, it's just one. So what you do is you sort of make a diamond shape with your arms and your hands and fingers. Just make this diamond shape. And then what you want to do is make sure your arms are kind of in an outward position. Then you just lower this diamond more towards where your belly button is, towards your waist. Just bring it down. So from the side, I'm going from this down here. And now you should feel the stretch more towards the back, near your elbows. Now this is a good one to work on. It doesn't seem like much, but when you do it right, ooh, you feel it. Shake it out. And then another important thing you could also do is stretch out your fingers. So just get like a finger, stretch it back. And then just do each finger individually. You could go as long or short as you want. What matters is we're stretching out the fingers. And you feel the stretch at the base of each finger. Here it is again. So those are some good stretches you can get going. And also, you could do this kind of stretch too, where you're stretching out your shoulder and the back of your arm. This one's nice because it reminds me to relax more on the shoulders, all that stuff. And shake it out. Another fun one to do is just grab a stick and just twist your arm around. This helps loosen your arm up. And then you can do the same for your left. And those are some good stretches to keep in mind right before you start playing. So next we're going to go over the most basic of drumming and percussion warm-ups known ever. It goes by different names. Some people call it eights. Some people refer to it as 8 on a hand. There's many different names for it, but basically the same concept is eighths, eighth notes. And so I'll demonstrate. I'm going to turn on our metronome, and it's at 100 beats per minute. So these are giving the eighth notes. So now I'll demonstrate how the exercise goes. I'll just play and then I'll break it down for how you can approach it or how to do it. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically what I did was 8 sets of eighth notes, and I trade off each hand after each set of 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then so on and so forth. So one set would be like 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. And you do it 8 times, and then you just end on the right hand. So yeah, that's just the basic idea of it. And then you could also do different things with it. So I could add dynamics to it, starting from piano to fortissimo. And it would go something like this. 3, 4. So on and so forth. Or you could do the opposite. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, the important thing is you stay with the metronome so you know if you're in time or not, and you just explore your dynamic range. And it's a good way to just build timing in your hand, know which muscles you're using at each different dynamic, stuff like that. And an important thing is to make sure the trade-off of each hand is comfortable and is pretty clear. So you don't have like, it's just a clear, just nice and even. And then you can also try it at different speeds. So here it is at 130 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and then instead of having to do crescendos or decrescendos, you could just try keeping at one height. I'll try it at just piano. 2, 3, 4. So on and so forth. And then you could also, I'll bring it back down to 100 real quick. You could also do an accent tap with it. So an accent tap is just adding an accent on either the downbeat or the upbeat. So I'll demonstrate with the downbeat. 1, 2, ready, go. So that's the main idea. And then you could also try with the upbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So on and so forth. You can get really creative with this. I encourage you to try it at all the different tempi, all the different heights. Try the crescendo, decrescendo. You can also do like just like waves going up and down. So that's just ground zero of drumming and percussion exercises. 8 on a hand, 8s. So here's another exercise you can do while you're warming up. I call this the trades check. I don't know if there's another name for this, but I'll explain how it goes. So imagine you have just quarter notes. What's half of quarter notes? Eighth notes. What's eighth notes divided in half? 16th notes, so on and so forth. So you'll definitely need a metronome for this one. I'll actually just have the quarter note going. And then here's the main idea of it. I'll just watch me and I'll try to explain it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the main idea is I'm taking one rhythm and then just trading it off each bar with what the divisor is. So here's the same thing, but with eighth notes. Well, eighth notes going to 16th notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you could do that a step further. I can't even do that, but you get the idea. So, with that in mind, why we do that is so you can get a feel for how each rhythm fits on top of itself. And then another thing would be if you want to have... So this is another thing you could do with the sticking. So I was just doing alternating. You could just stick with one, and then when you divide it, just add the other hand. So, just like this. Right, 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 left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, 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 left, right, left, right, left, right, left. And then another one you could do is, instead of using the hand you start with for just your single stroke, 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 you just go to the left one, or the opposite one rather. And then when you do that, just go to the other. So just watch it and it'll make more sense. Right, 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 left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, 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 right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Pardon the flub there, but that should give you an idea of just alternating it. So taking it a step further, it would just be like... So that's something you can experiment with and just give a try. So now this next one, you don't have to do it exactly when you're warming up for your daily practice session, or just, you could put this anywhere after you work on a certain section, or if you're warming down. I'll get to warming down in a little bit, but I call this simply just the check. So it's just a set of 16th notes, and all you just have to do is do it and just see how you do it. Don't even try to repeat it. It's just like this. I won't even use the metronome for this, so going in cold for this one. That's it. So the goal of that is don't keep doing it over and over again. The goal is to see, like, if I'm just going straight for it, how consistent am I? How confident am I? So I have just split seconds to just be ready to go, do it. And also analyze, what did I do? What could I have done better? And then just wait a little bit. Just do something else, play a different instrument, stuff like that, and then eventually just come back to it. And then see what you do different this time. Hopefully better. Maybe it's not as good. Just find out. So that's just something you can mess around with. It's just to check for consistency. So now here's another exercise. It's similar to eights. Some people call them long eights or 16s. It's the same idea. It's just instead of doing 8 notes per hand, you're doing 16 per hand, then trading off. So it would sound much like this. 3, 4. You can keep going if you want, but basically, instead of each measure having a hand, each hand gets 2 measures. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, bar, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, trade. So that's just something you can do also, and then try all the different things we talked about, like the dynamic swells and such. 4. So yeah, because you have more time and space to work with, you can really explore your dynamic range and control of the stick. And then of course, you can try this at different speeds. Also, I should have mentioned at a disclaimer, if you're doing like a really fast speed, like 160, you don't have to go all the way up here. You could just play lower, but more comfortably. And use like the smaller muscle groups too to work easier. So it would go like, sorry. Yeah, so that's just something to keep in mind if you do a much faster speed like that. And then so on and so forth, all that stuff. Then another exercise. My teacher taught me this a long time ago. It's an exercise called Army Man. And basically it goes over a 16th note check pattern. But what you do is you do the different variations of 16th notes or so. So I'll demonstrate it. But I should also demonstrate the different rhythms that you have. Actually, I did need this. So there's and then there's and then there's the ones that emphasize more of the left hand going. Now this one's tricky, the next one. You don't start with the right at all. It's just off the left. So yeah, those are just the different rhythms you could go about it. And then you just string them together with a check pattern in between. So I'll demonstrate the exercise Army Man. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now let's talk about warming down. So it's usually just like, say you have a computer running and it's been going for quite a while. Usually instead of just it suddenly shutting off, which is not really good for the computer, we have to approach warming down the same way. So instead of just like suddenly stopping, it's nice to just give your body sort of like an easier cool down as far as playing. So say you just did something intense, crazy, and you worked up to your goal, you could just do a simple 8 on a hand and then just call it at that. That'll be like the period to your practice session or your playing session, stuff like that. So it's like, if you have a car also just going really fast, you don't just suddenly stop like, you just sort of come to a nice stop. This way there's no people hurt involved. You get the picture. So warming down is an important thing to consider. And with that, that would conclude today's web video. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. Hopefully this was helpful for you all, and you all start doing warm-ups and stretches. You should also stretch when you're warming down too. Stretch every so often actually. It's important. Hope you all have a great week, and catch you guys around.